You are now rocking with the 3-yard play.
Right.
We just figured out a 3-yard play, fam. We're gonna win every time.
Yeah.
Hit that link with you. Come on in.
You're tuned into the 3-Yard Play podcast. Well, the only question is, does it work for you?
Trail got wings, bitch.
We been working all year. It's game time. We all here. We turned up. Oh yeah. Cause we finna be the champs this year. We been working all year. It's game time. We all here. We turned up. Oh yeah. Cause we finna be the champs this year. We live in weight just to hold up the trophy. Flag on the plate, cause them haters can't hold me. And 1, 2-a-days and run up the biggest hill just to sharpen up my skills. They hit the scoreboard first, I had to hit them drills. Time I get around the corner, they gon' see my new wheels. After practice, till the lights come on, till they bust ride out and they gone. That rally had us pep, my teammate down the steps. Player, we got plays you ain't even seen yet. I post up and fade away like graffiti. Just don't claim it's love when you see us on TV. We been working all year. It's game time. We all here. We turned up. Oh yeah. Cause we finna be the champs this year.
3-Yard Play podcast.
We been working
brought to you by reality.
all year.
Where it is, what it is.
Game time.
You get what you get.
We all here.
So comment and let us know where you
Oh
live.
yeah. Cause we finna be the champs this year.
All right. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the 3-Yard Play podcast. What's up, T-Mo? What it do, LJ?
What's up?
Man, shooters, this year wind downs, man. We actually gonna revisit the topic that we had spoken on a little bit earlier in terms of just mental health and the whole aspect of checking on one another. And I would paraphrase it as it's okay to not be okay. As of late, there've been a lot of things in the news, also in personal life, and just a lot of things that are when you really look at it in culmination, man, there's been a lot going on and been through a lot this year. So this year's been, rewarding, but it's also been a real sacrifice. And sometimes when you going through things, it's all right to admit to yourself that I'm not doing all right now.
Right.
Overall, like things are either overwhelming or I have anxiety about this or that. But I just feel like in society, there's a real big push for everybody to try to put forth that they're all right, or try to put forth the image that you're okay no matter what. Either be tough or just power through, or don't slow down the group. But it's always just kind of a be tough and go forward attitude. So, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Man, I just really be right at it, man. This been a different kind of holiday season for me, to be honest with you. About in 2015, I lost my dad. 2 weeks later, I lost my grandma. I do photography, and I was out doing some family shoots for another family, man, and then I start feeling some type of way. You know what I mean? It's just not really kicking in that, man, like they had a beautiful celebration with family and all this stuff. It was like 30, 40 people in the house. You know what I mean? I remember I guess it kind of triggered back into my life where that's how my household used to look when I was younger. You know what I mean? We had family, friends all over the place. Then I started, kind of missing my dad, my grandparents, things like that. And so, but like I said, it's like a double-edged sword for me sometimes. I start getting into that space, but then I say, hey, look at all these good memories I have. You know what I mean? I try and channel that energy to say, hey, let me be more empowered by having that experience. You know what I mean? And like, I went through a lot of grief counseling when I did lose my dad. You know what I mean? So, but one thing I learned in that realm was grief is gonna look a little different. It's sometimes gonna come in, come out, but at the same time, it made me feel good to have loved somebody and felt that type of experience so much that I still miss them. You know what I mean? And I meet a lot of people who just didn't have that. So I just find a place of empowerment sometimes, but it's rough, man. I ain't finna sit here and act like it just all peaches and cream. But like I was sharing with LJ, man, I usually, when we do these check-ins with each other, that's one thing I like a lot too. Just the fact that we do have this podcast and we check in with each other. So it kind of forces me to kind of go in and have some perspective about where I am today, do some self-reflection. But I come into my dad's office, you know what I mean? And that's chief head honcho, you know what I mean? And try and use that
Headquarters.
Come in and take that vibe in, you know what I mean? Like I said, I'm now dad, granddad, and all that stuff. So and try to give back to my family what I was given.
Yeah, man. It is definitely important to, I think, try to compartmentalize the things that you had in the past as far as just trying to remember. You know, at times I find myself, you know, I lost my mother at probably one of the lowest points in my life, you know what I mean? And it was very difficult. And the way I tried to, you know, cope with it was basically push it out of my mind, you know what I mean? Till I could get through that particular phase of my life, you know. But as I get older and as I keep going, you know, I find myself, you know, reflecting back on those times, reflecting, you know, trying to remember her in things that I do, things that I say, you know, just to keep that memory alive, you know. But also to go with all that is a greater self assessment. Like I think a lot of times people don't get a chance to really truthfully assess themselves, you know, look at themselves in the mirror and really see that, okay, well, either I'm doing well or I'm not doing well, or what I think is good is really not as good as I think it is, you know. So I think that's where um uh this whole mindset, especially during the holidays, it gets into that because you're trying to make everybody happy, you're trying to, you know, put on that face, you know, so everything is good. But at the same time, deep down, you got things going on. And so a true self-assessment is very important at this time, I think, through these holidays, man, and trying to remember those who you lost, or even just remember where you come from.
I think you said a whole lot when you said admitting to yourself that although you may think something is good, it's not really as good as you may think it is, and that's an interesting feeling. You know, it's kind of a lonely feeling and almost an empty feeling when you've been kind of accepting something as, all right, this is good enough, or yeah, I'm fine with this, or even trying to tell yourself it's better than it is. But when you really have to be honest and assess and recognize and take a real inventory of this may not really be serving me like that, or overall, I know I have opportunities in this area I could tighten up. You know, I could either put more effort in, and or the effort that I'm putting in is not being reciprocated. So I need to make adjustments and maybe pull back some. But overall, just being honest with yourself about what it is really. Because I think sometimes as big-hearted people, you know, you can tend to overextend or stay in situations too long when sometimes you need to pull your anchor up and move on because the other person may have already moved on in spirit or, you know, moved on in actuality. And you reminisce about, you know, good times or how things were. And it causes you to kind of spend more energy or more effort in places where you might have did better to, you know, forge ahead. And also, as you guys both, you know, spoke on not having a parent, you know, I lost my father recently, and that's just something that nothing can fix. You know, it's one of those things that over time, I guess we cope or we deal with it, or we are able to, you know, think about other things as well. It doesn't hit as hard, but it's still just a void, you know, that I realize now that I'm in the club, but before you get to that point, you don't understand. Like, nah, it's something that can really replace, you know. So
Right.
it is a blessing that we've had time to have those relationships and build those bonds and have those memories. But at the same time, it is, you know, sad when you think about it.
Well, I want to just if you're open to sharing, would like to know, like, what are some specific things that you do to kind of help you through it, you know? Like, what are some things that you do to you Triple or Larry that kind of help you through these times? Like what are some specific things? I know we talked about it kind of generally just now, but maybe it's some things that we do that might help others. Now, if you want me to go first, I'm fine with it.
I find myself sometimes just focusing on my crafts or focusing on my skills, on certain things that I do to take my mind away from the immediate, whether it's writing, whether it's art, drawing, or anything like that. I find a place to retreat to in that, and just kind of get myself, free and of that thinking. You know what I mean? Like, and then it also reminds me at the same time that these are some of the things that those people cared about in my life. You know what I'm saying? That they supported uh, and made that connection. It makes that connection even greater when I think about them. Um, and that's the key. I think a lot of times when you're going through those things, people think you're so strong, right? So they don't. You're constantly giving out a lot of energy. You're constantly putting into other people, but a lot of times those people they may not be reciprocating. They may not be bringing that same energy back. So you're getting depleted more and more often than you think. And so that's where I feel like you have to find a place where you can get back into you know, where you can focus on the things that make you a better person. And from there, I think you can find a way to cope with some of your down points and some of your losses and stuff like that. But if you're constantly reaching out and you constantly giving out and pouring out, eventually, it'll take you by storm. And I don't hope I hope it doesn't lead you to the things that we saw like with Twitch or you know even like knee jerk reactions where we just saw with Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion, whatever that situation was. Who knows how whatever prior mental state led up to that action. You know what I'm saying? How on either party, who knows what happened? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah, that's how I think of it, man.
I think, yeah, along the lines of what you said, you touched on kind of 3 points that really stuck out to me of re-engaging. You have to consciously re-engage. I know for myself, whenever I feel low, I feel kind of even far back within myself and further away from the world. So free engaging means even just getting up, doing something that you like to do to get yourself out of that rut, or at least start, move in that direction, and then further get out and interact with others. Because interacting with other people sometimes also can give you a spark, or reignite you, or make you realize different aspects of yourself or others that you appreciate or that you have forgotten about. So I think kind of re-engaging in that degree. I think also the idea of being mindful of just keeping your thoughts and your mind with you, because all we have is the now. You do have your past to learn from, and you have your future to plan for, or in which you can attempt to do better or refine yourself. But all you really have is the now. And a lot of times when I have times in which I'm going through it, a lot of times just spending time in your head, and you obsess over things that the moment in time is either was what it was or is going to be what it's going to be, but you spend so much time obsessing and going over some things in your head you can't change. Like if you lose your wallet, no matter how much you wish you could go back and have done that one little thing so you still have your possession back, you can't go back. So at some point you have to kind of be mindful and just be in your present and not trade what could be your current blessing over another fact that things didn't work out. And then I think the last point of just protect your energy, because also there's some times where you got to pull back and recharge, and it's not really selfish to be about yourself, because if you're not about yourself, nobody else is going to be. Unfortunately, none of us, at least right now on the level I'm on, I don't have yes men or people that I can page to be around me and worry about me more than me. So I do have to really be about the business of myself, and sometimes that involves pulling back and just recharging, because you can go and you wear yourself out. You know, you give a lot of yourself, and you got to get sleep. You got to eat well, sunlight, exercise. All those things play a part, but a lot of those things are individual things that you do for yourself. You've got to be, conscious or mindful of those things yourself. So I know, the more I can focus and get to those, try to touch on those three areas, then overall the easier it is to kind of move forward. As to the question you're asking, Thomas, of what are ways that people can get back out there. And then also just paying attention to one another. When we see people are going through it. I saw something where Whoopi Goldberg was speaking recently, and she was talking about, I think, maybe helping Sherry Shepherd, and Sherry was just expressing, how it meant so much to her, and she was crying at the time, and the things that Whoopi Goldberg did had a huge impact overall on her career and her psyche and all these things. And Whoopi Goldberg, not to be arrogant, was kind of like, all right, and I had it to do, so why wouldn't I do it? That was her overall take on her. You could tell to her, it was like, it's not going to break me to do this for you. And I see the need, or I see that you're working, so I want to invest in you, or I see that you just need help, and I'm willing to help you, instead of being somebody after the fact to say, oh, we could have helped that sister, or we could have helped that brother, or how things could have been different.
All right, man. I thank y'all for sharing that. I'll just real brief without going over some of the same points, but I really want to make sure I highlight them as it pertains to myself. One of the things I learned was, when you mentioned, like, I'm not trying to recover the past, if you will. This is my new normal. I have a hole in my heart that will probably never mend, but I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? And you mentioned self-awareness. I spent a lot of time with myself doing mindfulness, mindful thinking, and sometimes I felt guilty, if you will, about not wanting to have happy times or good times because I'm supposed to be grieving. You know what I mean? No, it's okay. I found it was okay for me to laugh and go try to find fun things to do and still be grieving. You know what I mean? It don't make the grief go away, but it made me feel like it was okay to do other things. You talked about engaging. I need to. A lot of times, if I didn't have those moments, that mindful time, that selfish time, if you will, or that, and it's okay to be, I learned it was okay to be selfish and be off to myself to deal with my pain and my anxieties and fears of things that were going on. I learned that. And so I had to be comfortable with that, though. You know what I mean? And not feel guilty, say, hey, I don't want to be bothered today, which was fine. But also, I learned in that, though, that made me better off when I did re-engage. Because I learned to process my own emotions and kind of, deal with me. You know what I mean? I can't be right unless I really take this stuff head on. And so with that being said, it also opened up my eyes once I learned how to manage my own pain and stress. Even though it keeps recurring and it's fleeting, the grief will be look one way one day. I'll be fine talking trash and all that. And then the littlest thing will trigger something. And then I start immediately just go into this space. But I learned to embrace that. You know what I mean? Like I said earlier, it just made me feel real good about having experienced that type of love from somebody, or experiencing that type of relationship with somebody. And with that being said, it's also opened up my heart to pay attention. That's some of the things that you mentioned, Trip, about seeing something in other people. You know what I mean? And wanting to just reach out. You know what I mean? And say, hey, I can see that you're going through something. How are you feeling today? You know what I mean? I realize it's a day by day thing too. I'm like, are you good? No, I learned to just change things and say, how are you doing today?
Right.
And then to me, it just signified that to that person that there are gonna be times where you're just not gonna be all right, and that's cool. You know what I mean? And don't feel guilty about it. And so, like I said, it's a lot that went into this conversation. I'm so glad we had it. We way past our 15-minute mark, you know what I mean? But
yeah, I think that's good final thoughts. What you said, you brought it back around. It's okay to not be okay. It's about that daily assessment or that checking in.
Right. And guarding your energy. At the end of the day, we have to guard our energy. And if we're not mindful of that, then it will take you down. You know what I'm saying? So, and when you're in those moments and you run into those types of people who are adding an additional downer, you gotta separate. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's okay to separate and get away from those energies that can deplete you even more when you're down. So that's what I think about that too.
Right. And just before we leave, I do want to say we mentioned the check-in piece. Hey, I'm just talking to y'all, but I'm talking to everybody. Schedule regular check-ins with your family, maybe once a day, twice a month, with your homeboys, anybody. Just do some regular check-ins. You know what I mean? It don't have to be extended. You just say, hey, how are you doing? You know, just simple as that. You know, and just acknowledge each other's emotions, if you will. Just acknowledge each other.
That's it, bro.
Hey, does it work for you?
Does it work for you?
What it's down to.
That's
Appreciate
it.
y'all for checking us out. 3R Play Podcast. We out.
Thank y'all for checking in. Let us know your
Comment
thoughts.
below, man. Let us know ways that you're able to, you know, maintain your well-being and check on yourself. Things that work for you.
That's it.
It's okay
Peace.
to not be okay.
You see, the thing that separates us from every other group of slaves is the fact that
Thank y'all for tuning in today and every day. And remember to keep running your 3-yard play.
Look at them mouths, we feel like flowers, they gon' grow. Oh, we gon' water the season, watch that harvest flow. Whoa. I've been crunching
Cause we know heroes are made in the off season.
There should be no reason
And grind the slow is better than crashing out
we
the
get that
dough.
money bound for it, we don't want it.
Let's say, young brothers, remember,
Don't fulfill the promise.
I ain't never
3 yards every day.
Mr. Officer,
They can never
I can't
stop.
read that narrative, so ain't no need of calling us. You ain't never had to tell your kid being black was a sin, cause his skin was reflected through America. Taking care of us was just a handout, right? But it was fair when free labor was just as nice. I can bet you your life, your kids living alright, cause me and
You
mine had to
have been
do
rocking
it or
with the
die every
3-yard
single
play
night.
podcast.
I get mine, yeah. You get yours, yeah. But together, nigga, we gon' get some more, yeah. Look at them mouths, we feel like flowers,
So
they
like,
gon' grow.
subscribe,
We
share.
gon' water the
and let's
season, watch that
discuss.
harvest flow. Whoa. I've been
What's up with
crunching
us?
numbers, winter, fall, spring, and summer. There should be no
Thank
reason
you.
that the baby
Tuning in
never
to
hunger.
3-yard
When we
play
get that money
podcast.
bound for it, we don't run it. I only
Post
pledge
on to
allegiance
it.
to go fulfill the promise.